Hi, I'm Misty Purcell. Welcome to my channel. I am a cross-stitch designer and a fabric dyer, and my company is Luminous Fiber Arts. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Luminous Fiber Arts, and my website is www.luminousfiberarts.com. Today is April 2nd, it's Friday, and this is my 66th video, I think. It's been a while. Thank you so much for visiting with me today, and gosh, it feels like it's been too long since my last video, my last regular video. It's just been a whirlwind. So I'm glad to be back, and I really appreciate you visiting with me. Thank you so much for your comments on my last regular Flosstube and my Stitch With Me video. And I really apologize that I didn't have time to go through and respond. If I had time, I would have. It's just been insane. So things are starting to calm down, and I should be able to keep up a little bit better with acknowledging the comments. Please know how much I appreciate them and appreciate you being here with me. And it's just a kind of whirlwind of preparing for Expo and having like the busiest couple of months of the entire school year at the university all hit at once. And it was a perfect storm of craziness. So that's where I have been living under a rock for quite a while now, and I'm slowly emerging from under the rock. So let's see, what do I want to tell you? I did a giveaway on my last video, and I contacted the winner, and she received her, I shipped her item, so thank you for entering that giveaway. I have another giveaway for you on this video, and yeah, things have been really busy, but I'm back, and it's just good to be back here again, and spring is springing, and I'm so glad that it's been unusually nice. So yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my new designs for Needlework Expo, and tell you about some projects I've been working on, and some things in my shop, and all of that good stuff. So hope you're ready with a cup of coffee or tea or something else that you enjoy. So Needlework Expo was really, really great, and thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm for my new designs. I didn't know what to expect because it was a brand new thing, having a virtual trade show. I just wasn't sure how it would go. Obviously no one knew what to expect because no one had done it before, but it went really well, and I'm just super thankful, and thank you so much. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it went, and then about the designs. I gave you like a preview in my last video, so I'm actually going to show you the full things if you haven't seen them yet, tell you a little bit about each one. So the Expo was the first, it was the first full weekend in March. It was like the 6th through the 8th. So it was Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Around the time that Nashville would have been held if we'd been able to have it. And it was set up kind of like if you've used Zoom, kind of like that, but not, in the sense that each exhibitor had a booth. There was a main hall that the shops could go into, and then they could just click on a booth and go into that booth, and they could look around. And then they could either message the designer or video chat with the designer. And so that was where it got to be kind of like Zoom if you've used Zoom. A little doorbell would ring, and then someone would pop up on your screen and you could chat with them, which was really nice. It was great to see some shops from last year, meet some people that I've only been communicating with by email, meet some new people. So it was just really nice to see people again. And, you know, occasionally there were like some audio difficulties, but overall I thought it was really well done, and it went smoothly. And a big thank you to Janice of Noteworthy Needle for organizing this. It must have been just, I can't even imagine the amount of work it must have been for her. I mean, I can guess, and I'm sure it was well beyond what I can even imagine. So, yeah, that was great. It was great seeing the other designers. and I would go visit them in their rooms a little bit, or there was a happy hour afterwards, and sometimes I could visit with them there. And of course, there were people I didn't even get a chance to catch up with, so they're on my list for the next expo to visit them in their booths if I can. So yeah, it went really well, well beyond what I could have expected, and I wasn't quite as prepared as I thought I was in terms of numbers of charts, so I had to reorder, and the amount of shipping was really something. So, you know, usually if you go to Nashville, you just take everything and people pick it up and they leave with it and you come home with some boxes or whatever. But in this case, I had everything. I didn't have to haul it anywhere, but then I had to package it all up and ship it out. And it just took quite a while to pack that. So thank goodness my mother came to visit me. She drove from Michigan to help me pack orders, and she was a huge help, and we pretty much knocked them all out in about a week. And I'd probably still be shipping by myself right now if it weren't for her. I mean, not really, but you know, it was pretty intense shipping. I've gotten a lot better and a lot faster at it, and we were a really good team. So I was super, super thankful to have her help, and it was just really nice to have her around. And so that went really well after she showed up. Before then, it was like, I can remember one day where I think in the morning, I spent like a couple hours and I only packed 6 orders because they were big orders, and I was just starting to kind of figure out kind of how much fits in each package that I have. So that was a slow going day, but it was a great show. We're expecting that there will be another one later this year, so that's exciting. I'll tell you more about that later. What else do I want to say about it? It was just great catching up with people as I was able to. I got to see a lot of Barbie from Barbie's Pedal Pusher, and Stephanie from Lindy Stitches. I spent a lot of time with her over the weekend, and I got to chat with a lot of other designers. It was really nice. And yeah, it was just a good time. And the only thing that was like, I guess, hard about it that I thought wouldn't be. So, you know, I'm used to teaching on Zoom. And so I thought, well, I use Zoom all the time. This is not Zoom, but it'll be like that. But it actually was totally different. Probably because normally I show up, my students show up, I teach them, and then we're done. And it's, you know, a couple hours a day. And maybe I have office hours, and maybe no one shows up, or maybe a couple people show up. It just kind of depends. But this was kind of like having office hours for 6 hours a day and waiting to see if someone shows up. You're kind of hanging around, trying to do work. You're not sure like how involved you get in your work because someone will come in maybe. So you don't want to like get too distracted or something because you want to be ready. But I couldn't believe how tired I was at the end of a day of sitting in front of the computer. So that was an interesting thing to learn about myself. So now I know that, and I'm better prepared for next time. But we got breaks, we got lunch breaks, which was nice. So yeah, it was really good. Okay, so let's talk about the designs. I had 3 new designs. So let me tell you first about Spring Scamper. This is the chart. It's a multi-page little booklet, as you can see. This design was inspired by this piece. My mom and I were shopping somewhere, maybe at an antique shop. This is obviously not an antique, but some kind of collectible, maybe you could call it if you wanted to, decorative anyway. And I was like, that would be a cool piece just to be like an inspiration for a design. So I picked it up thinking maybe someday I would base a design on it. And then I just kind of started drawing it out one day for fun and didn't really get anywhere with it. And then in October of 2019, when I found out that I had been accepted to Nashville for 2020, that was one of the designs that I picked back up and started to really intensely work on. But I had enough designs and I couldn't get this far enough along, so I just stopped working on it. Here's what it looks like in the end. Super cute. So, I mean, early on, these guys were on a little cart that I eventually turned into a carrot. And then next I designed the rabbit with the little chick riding on its back. And then I was trying to think, like, what else does this design need? And so at some point, this radish was actually a race car with the chick And I couldn't decide, like, should it go back here because the bunny's looking at the chick, or should it go up here at the front? And I moved it all around. Couldn't quite figure out where it should go. And I had more tulips at one point, and I was trying to think of, like, okay, I want this to be some kind of a spring race, and what should I call it? And eventually came up with scamper. So at one point there were like multiple tulips going across, and there was bunting that said spring scamper, but the stems were like coming out of their heads behind them, and it just didn't look right. And I got really frustrated, and I was like, I don't know where this is going. So I set it aside, and eventually I got the idea for the letters to look like this instead of being small and on bunting, and I had it below, and I'm like, that's not working. And I was like, there needs to be something up here. And then that was how I eventually moved the chick from down here up here, which gave it more balance. And then putting the words up here gave it a better balance too. And then the design seemed a little bit empty, so I decided to have the chick throwing carrots out of the plane. Like, one is kind of like confetti in a race, but also it's like, you know, the motivational carrot that moves you forward. And then I added the butterfly because I felt like this bunny needed to be looking at something other than the flower. So the butterfly is something for the bunny to look at. So that was my kind of interesting process on this design. This is stitched on 32 count Snow Day. And this uses a mix of over-dyed flosses and DMC. This was stitched by Paige Reynolds. A big thank you to Paige. This is obviously a large piece. She did a great job. There's a little bit of back stitching and long stitching, but it's something that you could do on Aida, no problem. So this design could be stitched on any fabric that you want. So that's the story of it. And there was a point where I really just thought, I'm gonna have to give up on this and it's not gonna work out. But I really liked the main idea of it. And so I just kind of kept taking breaks and coming back to it until finally it just clicked and started to move in the right direction. So, I mean, I have designs like that. I have designs where usually if I feel like there's a really good kernel in the design, then I'll come back to it thinking that I can probably find a way to make it work. And then sometimes if I think the design overall, the idea is good, but like maybe not amazing, then sometimes I have to let it go. So it kind of depends on, is there something about this that I think is really, really good that I need to keep pushing forward? Or is it just kind of good and I can let it go because it's not amazing and I'm probably not going to get anywhere with it? So it's kind of my thought process when I'm thinking about designs and they're stuck. Okay, then I have BFF Bunnies, which is the next design in my friendship series. And this is so this is cardstock. So if it's like a 2-page or a 1-page, it's cardstock, and then it's like a thicker kind of magazine otherwise if it's multiple pages. So like Farm Fresh Eggs, Coffee First, Spring Scamper are like kind of like a magazine. BFF Bunnies. So let me tell you again, in case you're not aware, that this is a series. So the first one was Playful Cats. And the designs are all based around animals and then things that those animals like, and then a friendship theme. So Playful Cats, you know, friends are playful together. So we've got the yarn ball, we've got a fish, and then there's their little paw prints. And then I put my initials and my friend's initials. So each chart comes with the alphabet so that you can put your initials and a friend's or a loved one. I mean, it's a friendship series, but you can make it about whatever you want. You can make it about your pets. You can make it about your family, whatever you want to do. Make it for a friend, whatever. So all of these have the mini pom-pom trim, and they're all going to be stitched on the 32 count sparrow linen that I dyed. So that's this one. This was the first one, which I released last summer. Okay. And then BFF Bunnies was the new one for the show. So BFF means best friends forever. I don't know if you ever had one of those necklaces I did with a friend where it's got like the heart and then it's kind of cracked across the center. And so each of you gets like part of the heart. So one of my friends growing up, I think I had B Fry and she had like ends or something. So anyway, these are BFF bunnies. So we've got the heart, you know, kind of reminding you of that little locket if you, or not a locket, but necklace if you had something like that. And bunnies like clover and they like carrots. So I really liked stitching this. I love bunnies. And I was really in the mood to stitch bunnies at the time I designed this. So I put my initials. This one is for my friend Cynthia. Cynthia helps me at Nashville. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. And then this is for Barbie from Puddle Pusher. 32 count sparrow, mix of over-dyed flosses and DMC. All of my patterns come with a DMC conversion. And then again, we have the mini pom-pom trim from Lady Creates. This one is Brick House. I'm a big fan of Brick House. You'll notice if you've done many of my designs. Okay, so I have more of those coming. And the next one will be coming out for the fall designs, the next design in the series. And then my last new release for Expo was Gathering Clover. And that's part of a series as well. So it started with Gathering Berries, which I released last summer. And this is stitched also on 32 count sparrow, and I used Lady Creates Chianti rayon ribbon. And I used Vanna's tutorial for doing ruched ribbon with beads. And on the back, I just picked like a coordinating red that I thought looked good with the overall look of the piece, the floss, etc. It doesn't really matter what you pick, just something that you think looks nice is all that matters. So these designs come with two versions of the chart, a version of the chart where the buttons are in place so that you can see the button placement, and one where there are no buttons so that you can see kind of like what's behind them. If you want to stitch them without the buttons, then you can do that. It's up to you, however you want to stitch it. So there's two versions of the chart in each pattern. And I used vintage mother of pearl buttons that I had in my stash. I think these are about 3/8 of an inch. And so then this is the new one, Gathering Clover. This is stitched with, these are both stitched with Belsois silk. This is Collard Greens. And this is Lady Creates Sequoia rayon ribbon. You can see there's my backing. And then I used a couple of mother of pearl buttons. They have kind of a neat patterning in them. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of looks like a star almost. A little bit of back stitching on both of these, but very, very minimal. So 32 count sparrow. And I also include alternative fabrics if you don't have my fabric. There's other fabrics you could use, or you can just play around. And you don't have to stitch these the same color I did. I'll just say that one, I love the Belsois floss. But if you want to use a different silk, if you don't want to use silk, I include a DMC conversion. You can pick a completely different color. If you want to make this some other color, make it some other color. So when I finished stitching this one, I was kind of sad because I was like, man, I really like designing and stitching that. And then I was like, maybe I should design more. Maybe I should make them seasonal. And so I decided to give that a try. I wasn't sure if I could actually come up with more ideas or not. So for this one, I thought like, what would be a good spring? Because I think of this as kind of like late spring, early summer. And I was like, what would be like a good early spring color? And then I was like, well, green. So then I was thinking about things I like that are green. And of course, clover came to mind. And I used to really enjoy as a kid walking around our yard looking for 4-leaf clover. And I was always surprised how many I could find. There's more out there than you think. So I just liked looking for that. So that's kind of like a memory in my mind that I had as I was designing this. And also another memory from my childhood is that my mom had a green watering can. I think it had white kind of flowers or some kind of retro 70s, 80s design on it. So I was kind of thinking about her watering can when I designed this. So I have more designs coming out in the series, and the next one will come out in the fall as well. I had planned on 4. I had this one idea for a design rolling around in my head, and I wasn't sure if it would work. So I didn't do anything with it for like a 5th design. Like it was going to be one of the 4 originally, but I was like, I don't know that I can really do that. So I didn't, but I've been thinking about it for about a year. since I originally started this idea of maybe I would do more. And then finally the other day I just sat down and played with it and it came together. So there's going to be a 5th design now. So look forward to more of these guys. They're a fun and quick stitch. They're all the same size. So if you have some way that you want to display them, you could just keep changing them out. Same with these. These are the same size. So you'll just be able to change them out if you want to. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say about gathering clover. So this was also stitched by Paige. So thank you, Paige, for your model stitching again. It's beautiful. And she used 1 skein of floss. Now, when I stitched this, I used 2 skeins of floss. And there's more stitches in this than in this. So I know Paige stitches differently than me, and it may just be that she's more conservative in her floss usage than I am. It could also just be that the layout of the design used less floss somehow. But I would suggest that if you're stitching on 32 or 28 with 2 strands of floss, I would suggest getting 2 skeins just in case if you're using the Belle Soie. Now please note that Belle Soie has more floss on it than over-dyed floss, different quantity than DMC. So I can't tell you for sure how many skeins you would need if you're using something else, but I would get more than 2. Okay, because it's 12 strands of floss rather than 6. So there's more in a silk skein. Anyway, if you're stitching with 2 strands of floss on 32 or 28 or something lower, I would get 2 skeins just to have a backup skein. You may not need it depending on how you stitch, but if you stitch like me, you probably would. And then I would not recommend using 2 strands on 36 because the silk is plumper and I think it'll just be too bulky for you. So I think if you stitch on 36 or above with 1 strand, then you'll just need probably 1 skein. So this one I did use just a little bit of a second skein when I stitched this. So for 32 and 28 or lower, I would get 2 skeins of the cranberry. Okay, if you have questions, let me know. Those were all stitched on 32 count then, and I think that's all I have to say about them. So I'm going to do a giveaway. So I'll be giving away one of each of my new designs, and you can enter to win as many as you want. You'll only be eligible to win one. But if you'd like to win a copy of one of my new charts, mention Scamper, BFF, right there, BFF, and or Clover, and tell me what you want to eat on your birthday. My birthday's coming up April 30th, be 41. Not sure what I'm doing yet. Last year was honestly a little bit of a letdown, big 4-0, but it was in lockdown and it wasn't a very exciting birthday. I'd like this birthday to be a little bit more celebratory. So I need ideas. I think I'm gonna have cake. So tell me about like what you would like to eat on your birthday, what you usually eat on your birthday. Do you go out to like a restaurant and get something special? Do you have like a dessert you really like? Tell me whatever you want to tell me about it. But mention the name of whichever chart or charts you're interested in and about something you eat on your birthday that's special to you. And the giveaway closes April 10th, and then I will draw a winner. You need to comment on this video. This is the only place to comment in order to be entered, because I will search the video with a random comment selector that uses the video URL. Please be 18 or older and do not mention the word giveaway. You can live in another country and I will ship to you. That's not a problem. Oh, and that's one thing I wanted to mention about my shop. I've opened up shipping to a few different countries now. I'm still just kind of slowly branching out because of shipping issues in general. So I'm shipping to the Netherlands, Australia, and Canada right now for my shop, but you can live in other countries and I'll ship the giveaway there. But just for now, I'm just slowly branching out to make sure things get where they're supposed to go. They weren't even getting where they were supposed to go in the United States. So February was a rough month for shipping. Okay, so I think that's all about the new designs. So now I'm going to talk about my recreational stitching, my side projects. Okay, so let me talk to you about my personal projects that I've been working on. I have 3 that I can tell you for sure I worked on. There's a couple others I don't know if I touched them or not. So we'll just go with what I know that I worked on. Starting with summer delivery. I mentioned in my whip parade that I wasn't sure if I would come back to this. I really like the design, but I think for some reason, even though sometimes I'm in the mood for large fill-in areas, I just wasn't at the time. But I picked it back up and I'm enjoying it more now. This is stitched on 40 count Sparrow. I've changed some of the floss colors slightly to suit me. This is stitched with 1 strand of floss. And really like it. It's turning out nice. I did discover that once I got down to about here last night, I realized that I stitched these top 2 triangles 1 row too short because I can't count. And at first I thought that I'd stitched them all incorrectly, but it's just this one. So this inner dimension here should be fine to fit the star inside. So I'm going to still do that. And I think I'm just going to not worry about these top 2. I don't think they'll be noticeable, especially with the flag being there and all the other stuff going on. I'm just going to press on. So that is that. I started this last summer. So summer of 2020, I started it. Will I finish it summer of 2021? I kind of doubt it. It'll probably be another year before I can finish it realistically. Next up is my birthday start from 2020, which was the Bee Skep from the book Agnes Platt's Strawberry Sampler by Blackbird Designs. It's a really nice book. And I've just worked on it a little bit here and there, but I picked it back up and made quite a bit of progress. So the last time you saw this, I was still filling in parts of the roof, and you can see I've finished the roof entirely and I'm working on the house. Now it's quite a pretty piece. This is stitched on 40 count macchiato, which is also dyed by me. I'm using most of the charted flosses. I changed a couple of colors. The gray on top was supposed to be a blended thread, and I used Weeks Dye Works, I think it's graphite, for the gray. And then on the house, the darker brick color, I changed to Manor Red from Classic Colorworks. So it's looking really nice and I'm enjoying it. I was getting a little tired of doing the mortar, but then I started to like enjoy it again for some reason. I don't know, I get these weird like moods where I'm like, I'm not really wanting to do this thing, and then I just keep doing it, and then I'm like, oh, this is fun, and I change my mind. So I don't know what my problem is, but I guess I'm fickle. That's my problem. Fickle is, I think, the word we're looking for here. And then lastly, I am working on the series of 3 designs from this set, which is summer, autumn, and winter. And I started this last year, 2020, on the summer solstice. And I had told myself that I would work on it each solstice, equinox, solstice, whatever. But that didn't happen. So I finally finished the summer section. So let me show you that. I'm really, really pleased. And I kind of went to town once I got going. So this is, again, 40 count Sparrow. And that is the finished summer. And so this will say across the top, to everything, and then across the bottom there is a season. And I've changed many of the colors to look a little bit more like the cover. That's pretty accurate representation way back there. So again, 1 strand of floss. So those are my recreational stitching pieces. And I'm just gonna keep on working on them and rotating them and just go with whatever I feel like working on. I only have time to work on these in between model stitching. Like right now, I'm not stitching a model because I have to choose floss colors for 2 more designs. And so as I need to mull that over, I can stitch on these. But then once I've made up my mind, then I need to go back to my model stitching. So these are just kind of in between where I have time or if I need a break from thinking as hard about what I want to do. Okay, so what's next? I'm going to tell you about some things that are in my shop. My website is www.luminousfiberarts.com. And so I've gotten some of the new Brenda Gervais designs that are really lovely that have come out for spring and Easter samplings. This comes with the alphabet fabric. So I have that, the first samplings as well with the fabric. And I have the adorable Jelly Bean Jubilee book. And I also have Hannah Ann Wallace 1850 in my shop. I have a few of each of these, so if you go later and they're sold out, it's just because they sold out, but I have a few of each of these left at the time of this recording. So I have kits for my new designs in my shop, and the kits are not including the pattern, it's just the fabric and floss or fabric floss and trim. That way the kit will work for people who are purchasing PDFs or print patterns or people who've already purchased the pattern from a shop. So I have those available in limited quantities, and I will continue to restock as I'm able to. And then I wanted to mention a couple of things about fabric because I get a lot of questions of when will you have this fabric? Can you dye this fabric in this color and this count? And it was always a little bit of an up in the air situation because I'm trying to do three things. Like I have a day job, and then I'm also a designer, and then I'm dyeing fabric. But lately with fabric supply issues being what they are, which is that it's hard to get, it's very difficult for me to tell you when I will have something unless I know that I'm dyeing it like next month for something like a new release. I'm trying to balance, you know, the fact that I have new releases coming out and I need to have fabric for those with requests that I'm getting. And so if you ask me when I'll have something, I don't mean to be just very vague for no reason. It's just that I don't know a lot of the time when I'm going to have time to dye or when I'm going to have the fabric to dye whatever it is that you're interested in. Or if a color isn't that popular and so I dye it and it might sit for a while before anyone buys it, then that's got to be kind of a lower priority color for me just because there's other colors that people would like. So I'm trying to balance all of those things. Right now, I'm starting to buy larger quantities of fabric, like bolts and bolts. I've had to shift my model of how I do things and get more fabric in stock so that hopefully I don't run out. But the reality is that Zweigart is working as fast as they can to make the fabric, and they're behind by several months, even with adding another shift and more machines. And so I'm on like waiting lists for various fabrics. And as soon as I get down to like a certain point, then I'll put myself back on the waiting list for others I have. Anyway, it's just complicated. Right now I have most linen and Lugana. I can only get 18 count Aida at the moment, so I have that. I haven't been able to get 16 count for months. I don't know when I can get it. It's just whenever they call me and say it's in, then I will have it. I'm on the list for a couple bolts. So same thing with 14 count Aida. I was able to get it and now it's gone again. And so I have to wait. So that's just kind of the situation right now. One good piece of news is that Soft Sea, which is a blue color that I dye that I used in my design Christmas Bird Trio. A lot of people really like that color and have been asking about it. And the dye was pretty much out, and my dye company, the dye that's used to make the blue dye that I use, so a component of that called cerulean, it was a synthetic dye. They don't have the components to make that blue anymore. So every color that included that blue could not be made anymore. And so the dye company had to get a new replacement dye and then reformulate all the dyes that were based on that. So the dye that I used was based on that. And so they had to reformulate it. And so I kept checking back and checking back. and they didn't have it. It was just on the list of things that they would get to when they could. So finally, I checked the other day and they had it back in stock. So I ordered it and I tested it and it looks the same, which is really good news because they don't even look the same sometimes when they're not reformulating it. But so I will have more Soft C back soon in stock now that I've been testing it and it's working. So if you have questions about fabric, you can let me know, but that's kind of my update about the fabric situation for the moment. The best way to find out about what fabrics I have in stock or when they're coming back into stock is to sign up for my newsletter. I also offer like sneak peeks of new designs there. So that'll be the best way to get a notification about what's available. And sometimes I do put things on my site, just little bits here and there as I have time. So you can always check my website as well. But for like a guaranteed email, that's the way to go, is with the newsletter. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will try to get back sooner this next time. And I hope you have a great April and a wonderful spring. I hope you're enjoying it where you are, getting lots of stitching in and maybe a bit of gardening. And I will see you again soon.